I've never told this story before because, honestly, it still feels like a punch to the gut every time I think about it. But I keep seeing posts on that relationship advice subreddit, people talking about trust, betrayal, how they're trying to pick up the pieces. And I realize I'm not alone in this kind of mess. Maybe someone out there needs to hear this, needs to know they're not crazy for feeling the way they do. It started about 6 months before our wedding. We'd been together for nearly 3 years, and I thought we had it all figured out. I'd met her family, she met mine, we even picked out a damn ring. Everything was supposed to be perfect. I was nervous but excited. I'd never believed in fairy tale love, but I believed in us. That was until I started noticing things. At first it was small. Missed calls when she was supposed to be at work. Late nights at the office that stretched into early mornings. I'd ask and she'd brush it off like I was overreacting. "It's just a project," she'd say with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I wanted to believe her, I really did. But then I started catching little things. A lipstick stain on her collar I swear wasn't mine. A missed call from a number I didn't recognize, her phone ringing quietly and then being put face down on the table. But the real red flag snuck in when I found her phone. I was looking for my keys one night when I saw a message pop up. It was from someone named Mike. Just that, "Can't wait to see you tonight, miss you already." My stomach dropped. I froze. My fingers went numb as I stared at it. I didn't want to believe it, but it was right there on her screen. I waited until she was asleep and then snuck into her purse. I found her phone, unlocked it with a bit of luck, and went through her messages. There were dozens of texts, flirtatious, knowing, intimate. She called him babe, told him she was planning to leave work early, that she missed him. I could feel the blood draining from my face. How long had this been going on? Was I just blind or stupid to miss the signs? I confronted her the next morning, my voice trembling but steady. "Who is Mike?" I asked, holding her phone out. She blinked, caught off guard. "What are you talking about?" she said, but her hands looked sweaty and her eyes darted away. I pressed her harder. "Don't lie, I saw the messages. You've been seeing him behind my back. How long?" She hesitated, then finally cracked. "It's not what you think, it just happened. It's over now," she said, voice trembling, but I didn't buy it. Not for a second. The pain felt like a punch that knocked the wind out of me. My mind spun. How could I have missed the signs? How could I have trusted her after everything? That moment felt like the end of everything I thought I knew about her, about us. But what hurt the most was the betrayal, not just of me, but of the life we'd been planning. I'd told my friends we were getting married soon, that we'd build this perfect future together. It was a lie, all of it. Now I was left with this grief, this anger boiling inside me. Something had to change. I couldn't let her get away with it. I needed a plan, something cold, calculated, and just enough to make her feel the weight of what she'd done. That's when I realized I had a choice. Let her walk away and forget everything, or take control and make her regret every lie, every betrayal. I didn't want just revenge for myself. I wanted her to feel the same sting I did, amplified. I started gathering my thoughts, thinking through how I was going to do this. She'd be at work today, probably with Mike. It was the perfect opportunity. I knew her habits, her routines. I'd seen her slip up enough times to know her weaknesses. I'd find a way to turn her world upside down, not with violence or anything that would ruin her life forever, but enough to make her see I wasn't someone she could cheat on and leave untouched. And so I sat there, palms sweating, heart pounding. My mind was racing, plotting. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without consequences. Not without her feeling how deeply she'd hurt me. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it yet, but I knew I was going to. I could feel it in my bones that the next step was crucial. But before I moved forward, I needed to be sure of one thing. How deep did this betrayal really go? And what was I willing to do to make her pay? The plan started to take shape in my mind during those long, restless nights. I kept replaying everything, her words, her actions, the way her eyes darted when she thought I wasn't looking. I knew she was hiding something, and I was determined to find out exactly how deep her lies went. I started digging a little at a time. I knew her schedule. She was at work from 9 to 5, but I also knew she often stayed late or met with friends afterward. I had to be careful. I didn't want her to suspect I was onto her, so I kept my distance, acting normal, pretending I had no idea what she was up to. Meanwhile, my mind was working overtime. I was planning my move, making sure every step would hit her where it hurt. One evening, I was in our apartment, pretending to mind my own business. While she was in the kitchen, I was staring at her phone on the table, trying to decide if I should take it if I dared to go that far. I didn't want to seem obvious, but I also needed confirmation. Her phone buzzed again, a new message from Mike. I saw her glance at it quickly, her face tightening in that guilty way she did when she thought no one was watching. My palms were sweaty. I felt the adrenaline, but I kept cool. I leaned back, pretending to be absorbed in my phone, but inside I was calculating. If I grabbed her phone now, I'd have all I needed. What I saw next made my blood boil, a picture she sent him earlier that day. It was her topless with a caption that read, "Thinking of you." My stomach turned. I clenched my fists, trying not to shake. That moment sealed it for me. I knew I'd go through with the revenge. Not because I wanted to destroy her, no, this was about making her understand what she lost, what she threw away for a quick thrill. I wanted her to feel the coldness of betrayal, because maybe, just maybe, that would make her appreciate what she had. The next morning, I waited until she left for work. I stayed up late, hacking into her email account, finding more evidence, more messages from Mike, plans to meet up again, even a hotel reservation confirmation. I printed everything out, organized my evidence like a dossier. I wanted her to see I wasn't bluffing, that I had proof. That was the moment I knew I'd be confronting her not just with words but with the truth she could never deny. When she came home that night, I was sitting on the couch, her evidence spread out in front of me. Her face paled as she saw the photos, the messages. "What is this?" she gasped, her voice trembling. I looked her straight in the eyes. "This," I said coldly, "is what you've been hiding. How long has this been going on?" She tried to lie, to spin some bullshit about a mistake, but I cut her off. "A mistake? Don't insult my intelligence. You've been cheating on me with Mike, my best friend. Do you even understand what you've done? How much you've hurt me?" She looked like she was about to cry, but I wasn't done. I needed her to feel the weight of her actions. "You're going to leave," I told her. "Tonight, you're not staying here anymore. I want your things out of this place by tomorrow, and don't bother calling me. I want no contact until I say so." Her voice broke. "Please, I know you made your choice," I snapped. "You chose him over me, over everything we planned. You threw it all away. And I won't be the fool who waits around while you screw around behind my back. You want to cheat? Fine. But I'm going to make damn sure you regret it." The look she shot me was filled with rage and sadness, but I didn't care. I felt a strange sense of relief, like I'd finally taken control after feeling so powerless. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity, about showing her she couldn't get away with betraying me without consequences. I handed her a bag with her clothes and a note: "Stay away, don't come back." When she left, I closed the door behind her, took a deep breath, and looked around the apartment I was leaving. It suddenly felt cold, empty. The place that once felt like home was now just a shell of lies. As I watched her disappear down the street, my stomach clenched, but I knew I'd made the right decision. This was just the beginning. I had to act fast, to make sure she knew I wasn't going to disappear quietly. She needed to pay for what she did, and I was determined to make her regret ever crossing me. I poured myself a drink and stared out the window. My mind was racing with the next steps. She thought she'd gotten away with it, but I was about to show her how wrong she was. It was time to turn the tables. Time to make her understand that betrayal has consequences. The days that followed were a blur of planning and adrenaline. Every time I saw her car drive past or heard her name whispered somewhere, my stomach twisted. But I stayed disciplined. I knew if I rushed, I'd ruin everything. The key was patience, precision, and making sure she saw the truth in the right way. Not just the evidence, but the way I presented it, the timing. I spent those quiet hours poring over her email account, her social media, even her phone backups. I wanted to know exactly how deep she'd gone, how many lies she'd told. I found more: secret chats, late-night meetings, code words between her and Mike. It was all laid out like a trail of breadcrumbs. I kept everything organized, ready to spring my trap. One evening, I decided to go straight to the source. I called Mike, pretending I wanted to talk. His voice was smooth, but I could hear a nervous edge to it. I made sure I kept my tone cold, almost casual. "Hey Mike, I've been doing some thinking. Looks like you've been busy lately. Care to explain what's going on?" He hesitated, then finally said, "Look, I didn't mean for any of this to get out. I don't know how to tell you I've been seeing your wife behind your back." His voice was quiet, almost apologetic. That brief moment of honesty was enough. I told him I'd meet him the next day, but I already knew what I was going to do. It was time to set my trap. The next afternoon, I showed up at a quiet cafe where Mike agreed to meet. When he arrived, I didn't wait for him to speak. I looked him over, feeling the coldness build inside me. "So, Mike," I said, voice low but steady, "you've been sleeping with my wife. That's what I found out. You're supposed to be my best friend." He looked guilty, avoiding eye contact. "Man, I didn't mean for this to happen. She's different from you. She makes me feel alive." "I hope you're proud of yourself," I spat, slowly pulling out the printouts I'd made. I slid them across the table. "Here's all the proof I need, your messages, her photos, everything. I wanted to give you a chance to explain before I do something you're not going to like." He stared at the evidence, his face draining of color. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear." "Too late for that," I said, voice trembling with rage. "You're not just some guy she was cheating with. You're supposed to be my friend. And now I'm going to do what I should have done from the start." I didn't lay out some elaborate revenge. No, that wasn't my style. I just made it clear I knew everything, that I was done pretending. I told him I was going to expose him and her, to ruin whatever reputation he thought he had. Because betrayal like this, it deserves to be punished. Walking away from that meeting, I felt a strange mix of relief and fury. It was almost like I'd finally cut the dead weight that was destroying me from the inside. The aftermath of discovering her betrayal was brutal enough. But now I had a plan. A clear, cold plan to make her see what she had lost, to make her understand that I wasn't some naive fool who just forgive and forget. That night, I sat down and drafted a message, one I knew she'd see. I didn't want to do this face to face. Not yet. I wanted her to know everything from me without a chance to spin it. I typed out the facts, the evidence, and a simple warning. If she ever tried to contact me again, I'd make sure the truth was known everywhere. The message was sent, and I sat back, feeling the weight lift slightly. I knew the storm was coming, but I was ready for it. I had everything I needed to destroy her, not with violence, but with truth. Because betrayal isn't just a hurt that fades, it's a wound that festers until you confront it directly. Now I waited. The next move was hers. Would she try to deny everything? Would she try to fix what she broke? Or was she planning her own counterattack? One thing was clear, she had awakened something cold in me. I wasn't going to be a victim anymore. Whatever came next, I was prepared to face it. The waiting game was the hardest part. Every hour that passed, I felt that familiar mix of adrenaline and dread. I kept replaying everything, her face when she left, the way her eyes darted when she thought I wasn't looking, the evidence I'd laid out. It was like I'd opened a door I couldn't close, revealing a side of her I never wanted to see. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This was my moment to take control, to turn betrayal into a lesson she wouldn't forget. I stayed home that evening, watching the clock tick slowly. My skin felt tight, my palms sweaty, the ache in my stomach sharper with each passing minute. Then I saw her call come through, an unknown number. My heart hammered against my ribs as I let it ring out, then I ignored it. I knew she'd try to reach me in ways she never did before. Within an hour, my phone buzzed with a message, her. A simple text, but it hit like a punch in the gut. "Can we talk?" I stared at the words, my fingers trembling slightly. I didn't reply. I wanted her to stew, to realize she couldn't just sweep everything under the rug with a few words. I waited for a reply, but it didn't come. Instead, silence stretched out, heavy and oppressive. The next morning, she showed up at my apartment. I knew she'd come, probably driven by guilt or maybe desperation. When she knocked, I hesitated. My fist clenched, then I opened the door slowly. She looked terrible, eyes red, face pale, like she'd been crying all night. Her voice was hoarse when spoke. "Please, can we talk just for a few minutes?" I looked her over, feeling nothing but cold detachment. "What's there to talk about?" I asked, voice flat. "You lied to me for months. You cheated on me with my best friend. I don't think there's anything left to say." She swallowed hard, tears welling again. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was lonely and Mike made me feel alive. I swear I didn't plan for it to ruin everything. I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me. You think I believe that? You lied for months, betrayed me, and now you want me to believe it just happened. Sorry, but I've seen the messages, the photos. You planned this. Her shoulders sank, her face crumbling. I'm sorry, she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Can't we just forget this, go back to how things were? I shook my head slowly. No, that's not happening. I want you out of my life, all of it. I paused, then added, I've already set up everything. The evidence is out there. And I've told your boss, you're done. At that job, everyone will know what kind of person you really are. She looked at me, desperate, pleading. Please don't do this. I love you. I made a mistake. I'll fix it if you give me a chance. I felt my jaw tight. You don't love me, I said coldly. You loved Mike and maybe you still do, but I'm not stupid. I see what you're trying. You think you can buy your way out of this with a sorry and some tears, but I've already made up my mind. There was a long silence. She looked broken, defeated, but I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. I stepped back inside, closing the door softly but firmly behind me. As I sat down, I realized I'd never been angrier or more determined. She had taken everything from me, my trust, my future, my sense of security. And now I was going to make her pay. Not with violence or petty revenge, but with something much more satisfying, exposing her to the world, embarrassing her, making her regret every lie she'd told. I pulled out my phone, opening the folder I'd been carefully building. I made a decision. I was going to send all the evidence to her employer, her friends, everyone she knew. The truth was going to be out there. She could try to spin her way out of it, but the facts didn't lie. Before I hit send, I added a simple message. This is what I know. Do with it what you will, but don't expect me to stick around and watch you lie your way out of this. Then I pressed send on all of it. Watching her face on my screen, I felt a strange mixture of relief and satisfaction. I'd done what I set out to do. She could try to save face, but the damage was done. And as I watched her walk away, I knew this was just the beginning. The fallout was coming, and I was ready to face whatever came next. Because sometimes, revenge isn't about destruction. It's about making someone see the truth they're too blind to face. The fallout was almost immediate. I watched her face go pale when she saw the flood of messages, emails, and social media notifications pinging her nonstop. It was like a dam broke, and everything I'd set in motion spilled out into the world. Her coworkers, friends, even her family members came to her with questions. Her phone kept ringing, texts pouring in, and her social media was flooded with screenshots of the evidence I'd sent. It felt like a slow-motion explosion. I wasn't there to gloat, but I couldn't help but feel a sick satisfaction as I saw her crumble. She tried to deny it at first, scrambling to delete her accounts, to call people and explain. But the truth was out. The photos, the messages, they were permanent. The damage was done. I stayed quiet, watching her from a distance, letting her own actions do the dirty work. I had no desire to rub salt in the wound more than I already had. But I did leave her a final message. Enjoy your fall, you earned it. That was enough. It was my way of saying, this is what betrayal costs. One night she showed up at my apartment again, unexpected, desperation oozing from her. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her eyes glassy. She knocked hard, and when I opened the door, her voice cracked. Please, just talk to me. I know I fucked up, but I want to fix this. I looked at her, feeling nothing but cold detachment. There's nothing left to fix, I said. You lied to me, betrayed me, and thought I wouldn't find out. Well, I did. The whole world does now. Her face twisted in pain. I was stupid. I thought I'd get away with it. I realize I lost everything, but I still love you. Can't you forgive me? That made me laugh bitterly. You don't get to decide that. You lost my trust, my respect, everything. You don't love me, you loved Mike. That's the truth you're too blind to see. I'm done. I could see her trembling. She looked like she wanted to say something, to argue, but I shut her down quickly. Stay away from me. Don't come near me again. You're not welcome here, and I won't let you ruin what's left of my life. I closed the door, hearing her muffled sobs behind it. That was the last time she showed up at my place. I knew she'd try to contact me again, manipulate or plead, but I was done. I'd already taken everything away from her, her reputation, her career, her sense of security. What surprised me was how I felt afterward. I'd expected to be consumed by anger or guilt. Instead, I felt a strange lightness, like I'd shed a weight I thought I'd carry forever. I'd taken control back, and even if it was cold and brutal, it was mine. I'd shown her that betrayal has consequences, that what she did to me wasn't something I'd forget or forgive easily. In the days that followed, I started putting my life back together. I threw myself into work, into friends I could trust, into things that made me feel alive again. The pain didn't go away completely, but it got quieter. I kept telling myself it was better this way. She deserved to see what her lies had caused. Looking back, I realized that this was about more than revenge. It was about reclaiming my own dignity. About understanding that sometimes the only way to heal is to face the truth, no matter how harsh. I've learned that trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep, but in the end, the only way forward is to be honest with yourself and take control of your own story. And if there's one thing I'd tell anyone reading this who's going through something similar, it's this. Don't let betrayal drown you. Use it as fuel to rebuild, to grow stronger. Sometimes, the most painful lessons are the ones that teach us how to stand taller the next time someone tries to knock us down. In the aftermath, I finally felt like I could breathe again. The chaos had settled, the storm had passed, and I was left with a clearer mind and a battered but unbroken sense of self. I handed over the keys to the apartment and officially filed the paperwork to end everything that tied me to her, the shared lease, the bank accounts, the future we once talked about. It was like shedding skin I'd outgrown. When I walked into the courthouse that day, I felt like I was finally reclaiming what was mine. I placed the papers on the counter, signed my name, and handed her the final piece of the broken puzzle, the keys to our old life. The clerk looked at me silently, and I nodded. It was done. A clean break. No more pretending, no more lies, just truth and a new beginning. As I left the courthouse, I looked back one last time. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the parking lot. The weight on my shoulders was gone, replaced by a strange, sober sense of relief. I had faced what I needed to face, done what I had to do. I knew I'd survive, stronger than I was before. Walking away from that chapter of my life, I realized something fundamental. Trust is a fragile thing, and betrayal shatters it like glass. But sometimes the only way to repair that glass or to move past it is to break it all the way down first. To confront the truth, no matter how painful, and then rebuild from the wreckage. If anyone reading this has gone through something similar, here's what I want you to remember. You're not alone. Betrayal cuts deep, but it doesn't have to define you. You have the power to choose how to respond. You can let it destroy you or use it as a catalyst to become stronger. I chose the latter, and I don't regret it. Betrayal is a harsh teacher, but it's also an opportunity. An opportunity to learn who you really are, to discover your resilience. And most importantly, to realize that no one, no matter how close, has the right to take your trust for granted. Once you see the truth, you can never unsee it. But you can decide what to do with that knowledge. So I walked away that day, carrying the pain but also the power. I know there will be scars, but I also know I am not defined by her betrayal. I am defined by how I rebuild, how I rise after falling. And that's what really matters.